Is that my glass? Oh, that's yours.
That's
That's your
mine.
Disney one.
Yeah. All right. I'm ready.
Ready?
Move in. You sure it's episode 16?
I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that. Welcome back to the channel of Goodie and JohnnyMo with the movies. Tonight, guys, we are doing episode 60, hitting another milestone.
Yeah.
And this movie tonight is going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania,
Quantumania.
which we did get to see opening weekend.
And even after that. Did we see
Correct.
it? Did we see
saw
it
it
twice in opening weekend?
Yeah, because
Like Thursday and then-
we saw it together, and then
Thursday
we took
and
the
then
kids
Sunday.
to go see it.
Yes, we saw it twice
Yeah.
opening weekend. But that was a good weekend ago.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it was a couple weeks ago now that's been out.
Yeah.
But before we get to our review, and of course it will be spoiler heavy, we are going to be doing our little drink of the night. So John, you could start us off.
Okay, so I am of the notion that I'm in an Irish mood going into this weekend because
Irish state
even
of
though
mind.
St. Patrick's Day isn't till not tomorrow, not next Friday, but the following
No,
Friday.
it's next Friday.
It's following. It's not tomorrow.
It's not tomorrow.
Tomorrow's the next Friday.
Tomorrow's this Friday.
Tomorrow's this Friday. It's the next Friday.
Yeah, next Friday.
But I'm pretty sure we're not going to do a taping between now and then. And incidentally, the St. Patrick's Day parade
Is this weekend?
is this Saturday. So, like, you know, we're right here. So I'm in, like, Irish mode. I'm in Guinness mode. I got my Guinness t-shirt on. And I got my
Oh boy.
Guinness
Oh, boy.
pajamas on. And
Oh, don't do it. Don't do it.
my Guinness boxes.
Oh, that should be an outtake.
And then I got my very special.
You know what? The podcast listeners are really in for a treat because they don't get to see any of this.
No, that's no treat at all. They're missing out.
Oh no, trust me, that's a treat.
I got my Guinness Extra Stout Dublin hat. That was a present from this guy and his family.
First time we went to Disney.
From the first time we went to Disney.
Yep.
And then the second time we went to Disney.
Yeah, last year.
I got this really cool, they got me this really cool Guinness pint glass, which has got, what is that, a toucan?
Toucan,
It's got the toucan with a pint of Guinness on top. But, lo and behold, I do not have Guinness in this glass.
No, you do not.
Guinness is,
But according to your rule,
I can have stout in any glass like this. Any Guinness glass is good enough for stout. Preferably an Irish stout. And I am drinking an Irish stout. I'm drinking Murphy's Irish stout, which, as of right now, I like better than Guinness. It's a little bit more chocolatey, toffee, whatever than I'm usually like, but Murphy's does it right. Murphy's has been around for a long time. And Murphy's is good. It's not as good as Guinness used to be, but it's better than what Guinness is
how often
now.
do you try Guinness nowadays that you can make that judgment call?
I'm going to say every couple of months I'll have at least one Guinness.
You're having one on St. Patty's Day, right?
I will attempt to have one on St. Patrick's Day,
Attempt.
and I will finish it. But I can tell you right now, so, I mean, did my tastes change? I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe COVID completely screwed me up. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't think so. But I am of the theory that the Guinness people, or the Guinness that gets distributed in America, because I'm sure everything in Ireland is different, they changed something in their process. And whatever they did, they didn't realize that the ramifications of that change, however good it may have looked on paper, or however good some jackass somewhere said, oh yeah, this is a good idea.
Right.
The cumulative effect of all the whatever change or changes they did has led to an inferior product. And
Yeah,
and
you've
then-
been saying that for a while, so it's a
You know?
possibility.
Yeah.
Listen, I trust you because I don't drink as much Guinness as you do.
And that happens. And I'll give you a perfect example, really fast. McDonald's screws up the way they do soda now because they changed their process. Originally, McDonald's would fill up their cup with ice. You order a soda, they fill the cup up with ice, they put this drink in, and they hand it to you, put a cap and a straw, and you're good, and you drink a nice cold drink. They changed that. Now, the glass of the soda is automated. It's on like a conveyor belt, so what they do is they put an empty glass on the belt. It fills with soda, and then they take ice and put it on top of the soda, and then they put the cap on, and then when you put the straw in, the straw goes to the bottom of the soda, which is at that point the warmest soda in the cup. And now you're just not drinking as cold soda as you would like. Now, did they plan to do it that way? No. Somebody said, oh, we could make things faster, we could automate it, blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, the side effect of that is a not too good soda. Now, you know what I have to do whenever I get McDonald's? I have to take the cap off and drink it through the soda, through the ice, and that's the only way it's as cold.
That's such an inconvenience.
Cold as it should be.
It's an inconvenience.
It is. They made their life easier, and they made our soda warmer.
Oh,
anyhow,
that's
so
a shame.
what they did to Guinness, I don't know, but they did something, and it changed it, and now it's not as good.
Well, after that beautiful rant about Guinness and McDonald's, my drink of the night is a lovely Blue Point Blueberry Ale. This is one of my staples that I like to drink throughout the year.
The blueberry.
The Blueberry Ale. Yep, nice little fruity beer for myself, and a nice Blue Point glass that I probably stole from a local bar.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. That's why I took it.
I just recently stole another glass from Hibachi.
Yes, you did.
I originally stole
I think the majority of our collection are glasses from bars.
The first time I went to Hibachi, apparently I stole a Stella Artois glass, I think.
Yeah, I think you did.
And everybody caught me, and they never let me live it down. I'm Grampy Mo is the robber from Hibachi. There's a song about me. And then we went to Hibachi again. I found another glass that I really liked, an nice Sapporo mug, and I stole that too, and I didn't care.
So
that's the way it goes.
With those lovely stories, ladies and gentlemen, cheers to episode 60.
And spoilers. Spoilers. No, but I'm pretty sure this Murphy's is going to go down pretty fast, and I'm going to go refill it mid.
No, we're going to try to end it before you do that.
Oh, there's no way. I'm going to be done with this in 5 minutes. It's so good. I'm guzzing it.
Okay, so the third Ant-Man film.
Okay, so before we get to the third Ant-Man film.
Okay.
First Ant-Man film. Liked it a lot.
Really enjoyed it. One of my. I would say that's in a top 10 of my more MCU films. I really enjoyed. Ant-Man.
You know what? I almost agree with you. I found the first Ant-Man really enjoyable. It was it was
different.
I don't know that it was the perfect blend of Marvel and comedy, because I think Guardians of the Galaxy
did that. I think they did that.
I think Guardians of the Galaxy is the perfect blend, but Ant-Man was a really good blend.
Yep.
I thought it was a very successful movie.
I do too.
The second Ant-Man movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, I thought sucked. It's one of my least favorite Marvel movies of all time, right up there with like Captain Marvel. And it's a shame too, because I think they really tried to duplicate what they did with the first Ant-Man.
I think it's one of those.
Work.
It's one of those situations where that old Hollywood story of, okay, give me the same but different.
Yeah.
Right? Because like you did so well with Ant-Man, you probably went above expectations.
It was almost like lightning in a bottle.
Right.
And you can't capture
and
lightning
it's like,
in a bottle.
give me the same thing but different. And I'll
found,
tell you what, like I
thought all the jokes fell flat.
I just wasn't a huge fan
of
the villain Ghost, I think was her name. Right? And like Lawrence Fishburne was a part of it.
I liked Ghost.
I liked her. I just didn't like the story.
Yeah.
I thought her character was good.
Yeah,
but
I liked her.
It was just a weak villain, though.
It was a weak movie.
It was the setup. It was the setup for Endgame.
Yeah, all their attempts at humor in that movie really fell flat. It just didn't work, and it was so upsetting because I don't think they introduced the Wasp in the first movie.
She's hinted at in like a credits scene because you see her suit.
So they introduced the Wasp in the second movie, which is great.
Which I thought Evangeline Lilly did a really nice job in that film with Wasp. Like she was interesting. She was one of the better parts of the film, and this is something that I want to get into with Quantumania.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the Wasp. Side note, Finally, just recently purchased a first appearance Wasp signed by Stan Lee, Tales of Astonish number 44. Never thought I was going to own one. Got one at a good price, signed by Stan Lee. Unbelievable. But, I'm a big fan of the Marvel women, and Wasp is, Wasp is like one of those original Marvel characters. Tales to Astonish number 44 from the early 60s. Like, Wasp has been around for a long time. Mainstay of the Avengers for a long time. But, so we obviously knew there was going to be a third one.
Right.
Previews came out.
The preview for this looked really good.
Intense.
And the way that they were really pitching this was that, like, this was going to be Ant-Man's Avengers film, right? Like, they wanted a big blockbuster Ant-Man film.
I think he needed.
setup.
I think they needed to get him.
Well, because he's always been like a side. His movies like were films that like led into something else almost. Well, especially Ant-Man and the Wasp. But like Peyton Reed, who was the director for all three films, really wanted to make a big spectacle of Quantumania, and wanted this to feel almost like the like an Avengers film. I think in scale.
Yeah. It was
like you're introducing the quantum realm.
Yeah,
right? And this is piggybacking off of Avengers Endgame, where they map the quantum realm to kind of go through and travel in time and everything like that.
And your bad guy is Kang.
And Kang, Jonathan Majors plays Kang.
Who's a big bad guy. It's not,
But this is the next
Yellow
Thanos
Jacket
stuff.
or Egghead or your typical, or Whirlwind or your typical somewhat nonsense
You're run-of-the-mill villain.
Ant-Man villain.
But but Kang's supposed to be the next big bad in the MCU.
Kang's huge, and Kang was first appearance in Avengers number 8. He's predominantly associated as an Avengers villain, and he's a big deal, We'll talk a little bit more about Kang later, but yeah, it's like, I think, and Kang is in the trailer,
Of course.
and there's a lot of stuff going on. The trailer was pretty intense, like lots of stuff going on.
The trailer's setting up
Action.
like something like big things are going to happen in this film, and that Kang is going to have this huge dominating presence. I don't know if it delivered that.
Well, so ultimately, I think what we feel is that Kang is the next big.
He's the next Thanos. He's the next. He's
the next big bad.
He's the villain that's going to interweave through these next set of movies leading into the next Avengers, because it's Kang Dynasty. I think it's like Avengers, Kang Dynasty or something like that. Like that's the name of the film. So
he's the guy that they decided is going to be, because again, at the end of the day, Marvel is smart. They're going to be securing, they have enough characters where they don't need to put them all out at once. And obviously they haven't, because when did Iron Man come out? 2001.
2008.
Okay, so 2008, it's 15 years later, and we've barely even touched on Fantastic Four and X-Men in MCU. Marvel has a lot of characters, and at the end of the day, they're not going to sit there and say, well, we're done.
Right.
We're done with all our characters, so we're done making movies. And they're going to go, no. Well, what do you mean we're done making movies? We need to keep making movies, because this is a lot of money.
But that's why they have. Listen, they have these plans.
So they
have all these phases. Everything's spread out.
Everything's in phases. And granted, I think 50 years from now they're going to run out of stuff to do. But that's when they're going to be like, you know what? Time just to start all over. Start over. So they've had one big bad. They've gone through one big bad, and I think that was in 3 phases, right?
Yeah, that
Phase
was
1, 2, and 3. The one big bad was Thanos. I think the next big bad now is Kang.
Yeah.
And it's like down the road they can just Galactus, Beyonder, Korvac, Mephisto, Dark Phoenix, like
they're all there.
They're all there's more.
The one I think, like, they introduced Kang in the Loki Disney Plus show.
Yes, he's not just introduced for the first time.
Right. He's at the end of that episode.
Yeah. They don't call him Kang though.
No.
They just call him. I almost think they don't even call him anything in the Loki show. He's almost like he
I think
describes
he says like I
himself.
have so many names.
But
It's like conqueror.
I think he
and
says
like
he's a
something else.
conqueror, and then you say, "Oh, the bells go off," and you go, "Oh, Kang." And even here in this movie, they call him the Conqueror, but do they call him Kang? I think they do.
I think so.
I think they call him Kang.
You know, it's funny. We saw it twice, and I can't. And thinking about it now, I'm not 100%
But
positive.
he's more he's more described as the Conqueror, though. It's weird. Like
Right.
he's like the Conqueror, so it's weird. And what's his name in real life?
Jonathan Majors, who's really like exploded this year between Quantumania
Yeah.
and then just coming out in Creed 3
Because we saw Creed 3 last week.
last week.
And I didn't realize it was the same guy
Yeah.
until you told me. I'm like, oh, look at that. I'm like, oh, he's got
He's got big roles right
he's
now.
playing some pretty big nemesis
Yeah.
in current films. So that's a big year for him. But okay, so
I just so
The movie
the
starts.
start of the film is Paul Rudd, who I love. I think he has been a fantastic Ant-Man.
yeah,
Is
Scott Lang.
he's Scott Lang. He's recognized in town all over the place as like an Avenger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like so, it's like funny just to see him go through town. Everyone's pointing at him, taking selfies with him,
little jokes in there.
and then he has his daughter is in jail. Funny enough, and she's basically almost like an injustice fighter or standing up for activist,
She's like an
injustice activist, and then we see Hope Van Dyne by Evangeline Lilly. She's back reprising her role, and I ultimately feel that Evangeline Lilly's character was not utilized well in this movie. I feel like she almost took a side seat in this film up until pretty much the end of the movie.
She took a big side seat to the daughter, I think.
The daughter definitely steps up and plays much more of a role.
Yeah. Now I'm curious if she has her own suit in the movie.
Her daughter.
Yeah, the daughter
which was hidden from Scott.
Yeah, so I think that it's like it's always like the next generation of hero because okay,
That's what it is.
So like in the comics, the original Ant-Man and Wasp is Henry Pym and Janet Van Dyne, and that's who Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer play. They're like the original incarnations. And then, decades go by in the comic books, and, the new Ant-Man from the late 70s, early 80s is Scott Lang. But if Hope Van Dyne is in the comic books, that I'm not too sure. I'm sure she is. I think it's well past, because Janet Van Dyne was the Wasp in the comic books well into the 80s and probably the 90s. So I think Hope Van Dyne is probably newer.
I mean, so
But it's interesting. You basically have 3 generations of shrink people.
Yeah.
She's the next one.
It's like she's doing all these humanitarian things with the Pym particle. She's like completely. It's almost like she's changing people's lives and like how she's using the Pym particle.
Yeah, and I think the one thing
I thought that's a dangerous road to go down because like you're almost making it seem like it's like she could like end hunger and all these other things with technology that she's using, and I'm like, well, you're not doing that. Like, it's like a pipe dream in real life. So like, why are we gonna push that?
I feel like
make that part of the narrative.
I feel like her being able to understand and embrace all the technology the way she did was a little bit of a stretch for me.
I don't.
Because it almost seemed like she found some notebooks about it.
Are you talking about Cassie? Or are you talking about
Hope?
Hope?
About the daughter.
Oh, you're talking about Cassie. No, I was talking about Hope.
Oh, well, yeah. Hope is in charge of the industry.
She takes over, right.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
No, I'm not talking about Cassie.
Oh, I thought you, yeah.
No, Cassie, Cassie I agree with because, I mean, I'm assuming that Cassie is smart.
Yeah,
but it's not Hank's daughter, right?
Yeah.
It's not Hank Pym's daughter who is brilliant. It's Scott, and Scott's a smart guy,
right?
But not at the level of Hank.
Yeah, and it's almost like they make it sound like, well, everybody was gone in the blip, and I found these notebooks, and I read up on this stuff, and I studied it, and
now I know.
I'm building stuff now that can go into the quantum realm, and doing all this unbelievable
when
technological
stuff.
stuff.
Couldn't even figure it out.
Yeah, like,
And Hank
to
studied
me,
it for years.
That was one of those parts of this movie that was a little. There's a couple of those, but that was like, to me, a little bit of a stretch. They just did it so blasé, so matter of factly.
Well, just
oh yeah,
But I think
I was dabbling a bit, and look what I made.
I think they were doing it to bump up Cassie's credibility and her role in doing all this and like coming up with this communications device for the quantum realm. Which ultimately gets seen and heard by MODOK. He's the one that picks up on that, and then pulls all of them into the quantum realm. We'll get to MODOK in a minute.
Yeah, we got a lot to say about MODOK.
There's a couple of flashbacks. There's a big backstory between Janet Van Dyne when she was stuck in the quantum realm. Love Michelle Pfeiffer. So great that she got this role and that she came back for it, and that she had interactions with Kang when he crashed himself into the quantum realm. What's amazing to me is, I think it's a good and bad thing for me. The quantum realm was huge.
It's like a subatomic universe,
right?
It almost,
it's like there's like cities.
Sense.
Thank you. It's like you get to such an infinitesimal level that everything else is just extremely big, but to a point where like none of this exists, right? Like you're getting smaller than the fibers of the fabric of this tablecloth, and it's everything just. It's just hard to wrap
like a billion
head.
times smaller.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like hard to just wrap your head around that. And then just how big, like it was like a technological city that was down there with flying
all these and
flying biological creatures as well as
the amount of
machinery.
Organic diversity.
Yes.
In that, okay, so, I mean, I'll be honest with you. The subatomic universe is pretty embedded in the Marvel comics. There's, between the Micronauts and Jarella's world and all sorts of stuff like Jarella's Hulk's girlfriend Jarella was from Subatomica. The Micronauts are from Subatomica. There's a lot of subatomic stuff throughout the years of Marvel comics, and it's just one of those things where you just kind of say, okay, I guess it exists.
Yeah.
I don't know that it makes too much sense. And I think one of the things I found, I think my biggest complaint about the quantum realm in this movie was the overabundance of diversity of life and creatures that were there in this small amount of space within the subatomic universe. It's like when you show up at like it almost looks like a cantina. And every single table is a different species. Almost every scene where there's a whole bunch of people, it's very rarely a race of people.
But isn't this where people were coming because Kang was conquering their worlds, or there was something with that, with the woman who was like the head of that group?
But you almost feel like it was like all on the same planet. Like same subatomic planet. Like they're all from this region. Like I don't know that they were.
I don't know if it was
crossing over voids of like I mean, they're on some sort of they're all on some sort of structure, which is probably round, probably planetoid. Granted, subatomic planet, but I don't think they were crossing from different subatomic planetoids to get to where they're going. I feel like they were just going around the land of that area. It was weird, and I felt like they went overboard with the diversity of life there, because it was like, you almost expect there to be nothing there. Well, if there's going to be something there, you expect it to be certain groups of species, as opposed to.
Well, the thing is, like, it's a contradiction to what we've heard in the past, and I think that's probably like the biggest thing that goes against the grain, because the way Hank Pym talks about it in the first Ant-Man film,
nothing there.
is that there's nothing there.
Yeah, there's nothing.
And then if you went down there like long enough, you'd lose your mind.
Yeah.
Because you just couldn't comprehend what was going on around you.
Right.
Right? And lo and behold, in the second film, they find a way to find Janet.
Yeah, well. So keep in mind,
and
like,
rescue her.
when the Pims go down, they're not native of Subatomica. They're
No, they're not.
shrinking.
Right.
Everybody else there apparently
Is already
native, except for
is
Kang.
native,
Kang was exiled there.
Right.
But like you get the impression that every single life form there is native.
Yes, they don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
In the
They don't
large
even,
world.
They don't even. They probably don't even understand the
They don't even know
existence
it
of a
exists.
large world.
Yes.
They've never been there.
No, because it seems because to everybody else, Hank, Scott, Janet, and Hope and Cassie, they're all alien
Yeah.
to the rest of these people.
Right.
And don't understand that they're from, it's not like, you can't even say like it's a surface world, like if you were in like Atlantis or something like that, because it's
Right.
not like that.
Yeah, it's almost like a completely
You're in
different.
like, you're in like the macro
You're in a
world.
completely different dimension.
That's almost what it's like. But it's just because like this, I think what was jaunting was there was so much life and the city, like everything was so built up.
Yeah.
all these homes, all this stuff that was down
crazy,
there, which nothing was like that in the first two films when
Yeah.
they talked about the.
And I'll
the
be
quantum
honest
realm.
with you, I don't think they really thought about it that much. I think they just said, we need to have a lot of stuff going on down there.
No,
and
I think so too.
They just went bananas
They just
and
went
said,
with it.
let's, they had a lot of creative people working on a lot of creative looking life forms and this and that. And they just said, they just threw it all and they just went full speed ahead. But, when you think about it, it just wouldn't make sense that it would be so varied. There would be like, literally, you every single life form you see is different from the next. Every single one. You go to Mos Eisley, it's a spaceport. You expect different races to be coming in from their ships, and they're all hanging out there.
Yeah, different species. Yeah.
Like this
aliens.
was like 10 times more than that, and it's like at the end of the day, it's like, where did all these come from? And then those that's about the humanoid life forms. Then there's like animal life forms. There's all sorts of life going on there.
No, it's
It looks good.
it
I don't
does.
know that it made that much sense.
But I think maybe that's maybe what they were going for. They were just
Yeah.
going for looks, and I think they were just looking to maybe fill in the gaps to help push the story because those people were all oppressed by Kang, so they all had a beef with him.
Yeah.
And I think that helped push the story along for Scott and Cassie, especially when they mentioned Janet. Because as soon as they mentioned Janet, they all know who Janet is because Janet basically helped Kang, for a period of time.
I mean, how did Janet not starve to death? It's like,
Well,
she's still got to eat.
You have to, right?
You gotta
There's
eat, like,
all that stuff that's,
like,
but that's what I mean. Like there's, and listen, this is the nitpick.
How long was she down there? She wasn't down there for a week and she stuffed it out. She was down there for decades. You know what I mean? Like,
but that's how she ate. She ate in the quantum realm.
yeah, but like,
Right, that
like,
micro universe.
Would there be enough food there for her? Who
Apparently,
knows?
because there's a city of people.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
don't know, it was a little much. I thought it was a little much.
I just thought it was so jarring because it was different from what we had known in the past, and it was like,
Yeah,
it's like
it was.
you're
It was.
going-
You know what? It was like a night
It's
and
like
day.
you're retconning what had occurred in the first two films just to make the narrative work for this film.
Yeah,
just to
I
push
agree.
just to push the story along. We separate. Scott and Cassie are separated from the Pims. All the Pims are in one region doing like one storyline, and then Cassie and Scott are in another, and then they get captured by Kang. Well, actually, they get captured by MODOK.
Well,
So
before we get to MODOK, because he shows up right. One of the things they did in this movie, which I thought was kind of interesting, was they addressed the fact that there's so many different species here. How would anybody be able to talk to each other?
Yeah.
They had some sort of guy who like one of his powers is if you drink his blood or whatever.
I don't even know if it's an ability. I think it's just it's like a liquid.
They
What would you call it?
said drink the ooze.
Drink the ooze,
but
yeah.
the ooze is his.
It's his
bodily fluid. And when you drink it, anybody who drinks it can now. Everybody speaks the same language, or everybody understands what everybody's saying.
I think it's almost like a universal interpreter.
Yeah.
Right. Because obviously not people are speaking English.
Right,
They're speaking their native
so
tongue.
it was actually kind of funny that somebody decided, somebody sat there and said, how is everybody going to talk? And they were like, well, everybody just talks. You know, and not for nothing. You watch any movie from 1960 and below, aliens from outer space speak English. Everybody speaks English.
Nobody thinks about that.
It's funny when you watch the Japanese sci-fi films. The Japanese aliens from outer space speak Japanese. Nobody thought about it too much. But now you got to think about it a little more. And somebody actually thought about that. They said, you know what?
To me,
I thought it worked. I thought it was funny.
I thought
I thought it was interesting that I actually liked that they addressed it at all and resolved it within the confines of the film.
I agree with that. I thought it was smart enough to you hit that for a split second just so that everyone understands.
Because think about the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right, and how many aliens were there? But those guys probably had technology.
the actual Guardians. Every one of them is a different race.
Right.
They're all speaking English. Maybe they're doing a universal translator there as well. But it's funny.
Well, because even Hank and Hope drink that, like, they drink an ooze at the bar. They get a shot of it.
Yeah, right. Well,
and that's how they understand it.
Well,
Janet,
because Janet orders it. She knows she's smart enough to order it,
so they understand
so they can start understanding.
And we get an unexpected cameo.
Well, first, what does Hank Pym do?
He's like, I need something. I assume you have something that can get me drunk.
Basically, he's like, now that I can order stuff, I would like to order like a shot right away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's that you're at a bar. That's what I would do too. And the guy's like, but it doesn't happen. And you get Bill Murray, who's great. I love Bill Murray. However, I still haven't the faintest idea what character he played. It has to be some sort of new character. I certainly don't remember him from.
If you don't know the character, I'm definitely not going to know the character.
From anything,
I know
anything old school.
It's probably something newer for sure.
And it's got to be. But Bill Murray just plays it with such flair. And he's not in the movie for that long.
No, it's a quick little cameo that he's got it, and it's definitely.
I would say more than a cameo.
Yeah, I guess because it's technically he's
one
scene,
but it's a long scene.
Yeah,
I would consider all the things that Stan Lee did in the past were cameos.
Yeah, okay.
Because it was like boom, but he actually plays a full-on character who's there for. I mean, that's like got to be at least 10 minutes.
I'd say 10 minutes.
That's a good amount.
So he ends up but it becomes known that he had a relationship with Janet.
Yeah, it becomes known on multiple occasions.
And I think
that's pretty funny.
I actually thought that was really funny. How not only did he just blurt that out there, but he kept going back and forth with Hank a little bit. Like Hank was like, "How close?"
Yeah,
like how good friends. Like
really
yeah, it's just it kind of and then that conversation went further when they steal his space yacht.
Yeah,
and they're talking about
because it is really funny. Because one, not for nothing, Michelle Pfeiffer's hot, and it's like, and even
she's down there for 30 years.
Yeah, and she's like, she's like, I had needs, and it's like, well, yeah, because not for nothing, after a while you gotta. She probably figures I'm going to be here forever, so gotta
I'm never getting back to Hank.
But I mean, not for nothing, Michelle Pfeiffer's got to be getting up there in age.
She's probably got to be 70.
She's got to be okay. So first time I ever saw Michelle Pfeiffer on screen was Scarface in the early '80s, and that to me, and I think Scarface was '82. I think
she was in Grease too. I just don't know when that was.
That was in the '80s as well.
Was it?
But and she was pretty young. She was pretty young in that. But that she's been around for a while. But she still looks good.
Oh, she looked fantastic.
Yeah,
she's great.
Good. Makes you wonder if they did any de-aging on anybody in this film. I mean, Michael Douglas is pretty up there in age.
Yeah. I mean, they did the aging on him in another movie from Michael Douglas.
Oh yeah,
they did that with him.
I
think they did that in the first Ant-Man movie.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I think the first Ant-Man film, I think they did that. He was at the, what's that, Skellington? What's that, where S.H.I.E.L.D. is? That big giant base that got destroyed in Captain America Winter Soldier.
The name of it, I have no idea.
Okay. Well, in that, it was, I think it was before Ant-Man started. Mm-hmm. That was like the prelude to the film. That was like the little intro. But anyway, I mean, and now after this, so that's their side story that's going on, and then the next side story is Scott and Cassie, and they get captured
by Kang. Right.
And so they're basically separated in two separate cells, and Kang starts talking to Scott, and Scott makes a reference to the Avengers, which is great, and then Kang's like, "Have I killed you?" Right? And he's like, "You're not the one with the hammer."
Yeah, Kang knows all about this, and
So
it's probably stuff.
He's alluding to the fact that he has killed Avengers in other timelines.
Yeah, and it could be in the future, could be in the past. You know,
Right.
it could be all over the place.
It could be parallel
It's very,
Earths.
yeah, it's very.
Yeah, and so it's like it's definitely like you're still working within the multiverse, and there's a lot of talk about the multiverse in this.
You know, because now not only is it the multiverse, but it's different timelines. Because the multiverse isn't different timelines. The multiverse is like
Just alternate realities.
But all the alternate realities are
Have a past, present,
in the
future.
in the same time.
Right.
And there's the future and there's the present. So it gets a little complicated.
No, I think it does too, and sometimes it can be a little hard to follow. But not. I don't think it's so. In this instance, I think it's pretty straightforward what Kang is alluding to, and he basically makes a deal with Scott that it's. I mean,
You
Kang's
better
got Scott.
help me or I'm going to kill your daughter.
He's got him because what else is he going to do? Scott's
Right.
going to do anything he can to protect his daughter.
Right. Well,
he's not going to. He's not
You
going
always
to.
think about this. You say, I'm going to save my daughter, even if it means destroying the universe.
But for
and
him,
it's like, well, it's not really that. The thing is, you got to save your daughter to buy time.
Well, that's
in
what
order
it is.
in order
To figure
to
something
turn
out.
the tables on, and
That's what it always
and save
is.
everybody.
That's what it always is.
So
Your
it's
mind
not
says,
really an
you're gonna-
idiotic move.
No, it's not. You're going to say yes no matter what because your immediate reaction is let me save her, let me get her off the hook, and let me get time,
and then
I'll
can
figure
do
out how I can turn the tables, like you said. How can I
get to the end game that we want? Where
where now I have the upper hand, and he does that, and he ends up getting exactly what Kang wants, and figuring it all out. And to me, this is when we're like 3/4, almost at least between halfway and 3/4 of the film at this point in time, and this is almost when Hope Van Dyne starts to shine a little bit more.
Shine a little bit, yeah.
Because she comes and saves Scott. Because Scott, they tell him like when he goes into that that expanded version of that power source for Kang's ship.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So he goes into that, and he's told like when you go in there, you're going to lose your mind. MODOK tells him that.
Oh, so we should talk about MODOK. So MODOK
I'm sorry, MODOK is a mess.
MODOK is a mess.
MODOK is a mess.
I forget what it stands for. Mobile organism designed only for killing, which should be MODOK.
Which Scott makes a reference to.
But okay, so MODOK, I'm pretty sure originally appeared in the comic books and Tales of Suspense in the late '60s. I actually don't remember if it was in Captain America or Iron Man, because that was when Captain America and Iron Man were Tales of Suspense. But MODOK's been around for a long time, and I'll be honest with you, MODOK has always been a goofy frickin' villain.
Well, he was goofy in this.
In the comic book, he's just basically a giant floating head with little hands and little feet attached to like a
hover
mechanized chair that's got weapons on it, and he's really goofy looking, and not for nothing.
Well, the outer
there
shell.
are some villains from back in the day that were so goofy that they only appeared once.
And there's reasons why.
MODOK didn't only appear once. MODOK was around for a while.
So here's the thing with MODOK. I actually thought his outer shell was pretty good looking. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
And then he removes the veil,
the metal mask.
right? And we see who it really is.
And it's the guy who
played
the
Yellow
Jacket in the second movie. No,
First
movie. Right,
Yeah.
right.
Who gets he gets stuck in
And
the
I forget
quantum
his
realm.
name. I totally
But-
forget. It's not Obadiah Stane, because that was
No,
somebody
that's
else.
from
It's
Iron Man.
the other guy.
So-
it's some other guy, and He's just so
Darren.
weird. Darren. He's just so weird looking because, in all honesty,
his face just looks stretched.
his
and like,
face doesn't look real.
No, it doesn't. It looks so distorted.
His face looks like an image,
it's just
a
pulled.
stretched image,
Yeah.
imposed almost on a screen. It looks.
Yeah.
It doesn't look real. It doesn't look like a real face.
And
It
now
doesn't
here's
look
the
like a
thing.
real
I don't know if that
organism.
was that a mistake by special effects of the Marvel, or did they
Plan
want
it that way? No,
Plan it
no.
that way? I can't see them wanting to plan it that way.
Well, you know what?
It was incredibly distracting.
Either way, it didn't work that well. It was too.
It was distracting.
Odd and distracting.
Every time he took the veil off and you saw his face, you couldn't stop staring at his face.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't quite understand how his body even got into that form because it's like he went down to the quantumverse, and like
Well, they quickly veil over with saying Kang rescued him.
Rescued him, and they show him his naked body, and literally it's like a giant head with little hands and arms, and like maybe he just got screwed up going down, shrinking down, and he shrunk out of proportion when he got there. I don't know, but it's just so weird. Like you weren't expecting it to be anybody that you knew, and he was goofy. But it did bring in like one of the I think I don't know, it's almost like a funny keyline catchphrase from the daughter, and he's like, it's never too late to stop being a dick.
No, it was funny.
And he's like, I'm such a dick.
But the whole time, like
stop being a dick.
But like the whole time, like he's dick. Like he's just a complete ass. He's a jerk the entire time when he sees the Lang.
That's who he was in the original. He was always a jerk.
He was just a jerk.
Right.
And it was just over the top, like hitting you over the head with it more and more until finally, like him and Cassie end up fighting. They end up battling a little bit, towards the end of the film.
And he's actually pretty tough.
He is.
Yes. He's got some pretty.
Like he's got pretty good weapons
technology.
And everything. Yeah.
But even Kang treats him like a little bit of a jerk.
Oh, that was great when he took him and he like flung him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and eventually he dies, and he dies a hero.
Well, he died, because he ends up breaking Kang's force field that's around him in the final fight.
And in his mind, he considered
he said, "I'm an Avenger now."
I'm an Avenger. Like he almost he what do you say? Like he absolved himself almost
right, of his sins of him being a dick.
So I mean, and it was a little tragic too, because at the end you almost kind of feel bad for him,
No, you do. He gives up his life to save them. Before we even get to that, as we were saying before, Janet finds out that Scott is down in this sphere, right? And she hops in, and Scott's like losing his mind. Like he's got so many clones of himself that he completely forgets like who he is.
It's like
it's like he's getting
all
lost
those clones. It's just like, I forget what they call it, like a probability. I think he said he was lost in a probability matrix.
Yeah,
and it was like one of the things where it's like he's seeing
different versions of
himself that made different decisions at certain points in time, and it just keeps it probably just keeps ballooning exponentially.
Yeah, and then Hope ends up coming in to save him.
Yeah,
which was like one of the first, I thought, great things that she did in the movie, and we're 3/4 of the way through at this point in time.
And that scene has one of the parts of the movie that I find the most annoying. So obviously Baskin Robbins paid a lot for the advertising within the film. And this is basically what happened.
Well, he did work for Baskin Robbins in the first movie.
Right, but that was an advertising thing. Baskin Robbins said,
yes, they paid some money
we paid
to be in it.
To be the employer of Scott Lang, whatever, and we want to be in the franchise, because it's good. It's all product placement. So somebody basically said, look, Baskin Robbins needs to be in the beginning of the movie, the middle of the movie, and the end of the movie. So in the beginning of the movie is when he walks in, and it's funny. I get it, it's funny, but they made it funny. But the whole thing is like, it's all about product placement. It's not about, it's just, you know, Baskin Robbins paid a lot of money to
It's not
to be
serving the story.
It's not serving the story at all. So they had a whole scene in the beginning where he goes in and they think he's
They award him.
Spider-Man.
No. That's a coffee shop. No.
Oh, that's the coffee shop. That's the coffee shop.
No,
Okay, yeah, no. Baskin Robbins.
He gets like awarded some like
Employee of
certificate or
the
something
employee
like
of
that.
the century, whatever.
Yeah.
So they have a thing at Baskin Robbins in the beginning of the movie, you know, and then at the end of the movie, they have a Baskin Robbins things at the end of
He's
the
got to
movie.
get the cake.
So the Baskin Robbins people, like, you know, we need to be in the middle of the movie too. You know, we want 3 spots. We want
Well,
3
you don't
plugs.
know that. You're speculating.
I'm speculating, but they said we want 3 spots. We want 3 plugs. And then somebody said, well, the whole middle of the movie, they're in the quantum universe. You know, we can't really put you in there. And they're like,
Yes,
well,
they can.
well, what do you mean? You know, maybe, you know, in that cantina, maybe they could be a little Baskin Robbins standing there, somebody selling Baskin Robbins.
Stop.
And they said, no, Baskin Robbins doesn't exist in the quantum
Now
universe.
you just going
So they
off
said,
the rails.
well, I don't care. Figure it out. We want to be in there. So they said, okay, why don't we have it in the scene where all the clones in the probability matrix for Ant-Man, one of the guys is wearing a Baskin Robbins, you know, uniform. And they're like, that sounds great. And somebody's sitting there going, this makes absolutely no freaking sense. And they're like, well, we just got to do it. We'll make it funny. It'll work because nobody cares. And if we don't do it, Baskin Robbins is going to sue us for breach of contract, blah, blah, blah. So
you're reaching with all this.
no, I'm not. Because what you have is you have this probability matrix with like 1 billion Ant-Mans in Ant-Man costumes, and you have one idiotic Scott Lang running around in a Baskin Robbins costume.
He chose to work for Baskin Robbins not become Ant-Man.
No, it's all from that moment. It makes absolutely no sense that there's a Baskin Robbins Scott Lang in that probability matrix.
Purely for laughs.
Yeah, but it makes absolutely no sense.
I didn't say
zero.
I didn't say it got the laughs. I'm just saying
Zero.
it was done for the laughs.
It was done for product placement because they needed a little bit more Baskin Robbins.
Sure.
And it's just like,
If that's the theory that you want to go with, I'm going to let you. I'm going to let you do it.
Really? It's like, really? It's just, you know, it's just so shameless. Like they don't even feel guilty about it.
No.
You know? It's like the whole nonsense with Thor: Love and Thunder with all the Guns N' Roses things. You know, Guns N' Roses says we need to be in. You know, we need. You know,
Don't start jumping movies.
we need.
Don't start.
We need 4 references. And so like, okay, how about we call one of the guys that decides to change his name to Axel? Great, and make sure there's a poster here and something else here, and play the music. And it's just like,
Don't start coming up with
does
conspiracies.
Marvel really need to cheapen their films to satisfy the product placement requirements of the current industry?
Apparently so.
You would think they would.
Apparently so.
They would do it to a certain degree, but they just go over. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is
Maybe.
to go over and just be
Maybe.
crazy.
And that's what they went with.
Because did you see watching that scene? Did you think the Baskin Robbins guy
It was
worked?
ridiculous. No, I don't think it worked. I laughed.
It doesn't work.
I laughed at it, but not because. Not that I thought that it worked. I just thought it was a funny spot.
That drove me nuts. I'm just because I hate product placement. I really hate
Oh, I know
product
you
placement.
do.
I hate it. And
Even the
that's
Reese's Pieces in ET.
No, I don't,
That's product placement.
because that was genius.
But that was product placement.
No, but that was the genius, innovative
That started product placement.
that started product placement, and people said, "Oh," and they ruined it. Like it should have just,
Because it was subtle.
yeah, like
You're okay with
know-
it if it's subtle.
somebody does something for the first time, it's a great idea, and then when 1 billion people try to copy it and not as good, they ruin it.
See, do you know what they should have done?
Everybody else ruined product.
Do you know what they
placement.
should have done?
What?
They should have contacted Steven Spielberg to ask him, how should we handle this Baskin Robbins issue?
He goes, Steven Spielberg was like, I just did it once because it made sense and it looked good. I didn't think that it would change the entire movie industry so that now there would be, I'm sure in the credits there's a credit that says,
Oh, Baskin Robbins.
no, person in charge of product placement, head of product placement. You know, because it's a whole big deal. Oh, was this the movie in the credits where it said, I think it was, I saw one of the best jobs in the credits, and I'm almost 100% positive in this movie. Head of unscripted material.
Yeah, that was this.
And I'm like, that's freaking amazing. Like, unscripted, well, we can't be just unscripted and go bananas. We got to put someone in charge of that. It's like, if you're in charge of unscripted material, does that almost, I don't know if that makes any sense.
I don't know either, but...
It's like, you're in charge of the impromptu remarks. Okay, so you're going to say this impromptu remark.
That's right.
It's no longer impromptu if I'm telling you what to do. But I thought that was a very interesting credit. And that's why I watched the credits, because you see wacky stuff. Anyhow, I digress.
Yeah, that was a good digress. Thank you very much for that. So
the Murphy's talk.
Getting back to where we were with the I guess we're entering the final fight here.
Oh,
so Scott is able to retrieve the power source for Kang.
Yes, and we're going to get into another crazy thing.
Right, and then basically he's like saying like, okay, now keep your end of the bargain, and Kang is like, no, he's like, you got my thing, thanks.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all I needed from you.
You can't trust Kang.
So. He doesn't let Cassie go,
and he should have.
Right, and he basically what does he do to Scott at that point? He does something to the two of them.
But Scott got away, and
but I don't remember how they got away.
I don't remember how they got away, but they brought all the people rose up with them because the girl, the daughter went in and helped the leader of like one of the big tribe, the leader of the resistance escape.
Right.
And I liked her.
And then he gets I thought she was great. I have
no idea who she was, but I liked her. I liked her character.
No, I thought she was great. And then she enables to get all of the her people, all these people that had been conquered by Kang, to rise up against him. And it's this huge revolution.
Right. And there's another part in here that to me was really made no sense. So when Hank Pym shows up with the army of the ants.
At the very end.
Well,
because he explains it as like, it's like throughout the movie, if you watch, like he gets these like little things that's happening like towards his ear, and he's like making like motions towards it. And the first two films, obviously, he had like that little device, that little communicator almost with the ants. So something is going on with that.
Right.
But these are ants that are now like evolved.
Well, the ants
for thousands of years now.
The ants, got into the quantum universe. So it basically comes down to somebody said, "Look, this is an Ant-Man movie, and for the finale, we need an army of giant ants, to come." And the guy's like,
and he comes
right. Somebody says, "Well, how the hell is that going to happen?" And the other guy says, "Look, I don't know how it's going to happen. I just need it to happen."
But do you know where those ants came from?
So just make it happen. They got sucked in when everybody got sucked in the beginning.
Right, the little ant farm.
So all these little ant farms got sucked in. And it's like, okay, well, technically they've been here as long as everybody else has been, which has only been 24 hours. No,
but they got stuck somewhere. And they had been there even longer. They developed like this whole...
Yeah, thousands of years. Well, that's what it comes down to. They said, look, how do we have a giant, well, they just got there with everybody else. So, they're just, they're ants. Well, no, we need a giant ant army. Just make it happen. Okay. I love how this is like your assumption between the crew and production. Yeah, no, they just make it happen. So
the executives are this is what you have.
You're the screenwriter. This is what I want. Make it happen. Okay, so the ants showed up. And somehow they got stuck in some side quantum realm, and they lived there for 1,000 years, and they got bigger, and they evolved, and now we have a giant evolved ant army for the finale, which is what the guy said, and which is what my boss said I needed.
Done.
And it's done. And that's it. We just accept it. All the ants show up, and it looks great. Because as long as it looks great, nobody cares how you got there.
You know what I thought looked great? Was Scott when he was blown up. He was Giant Man.
Oh, and he was super big. In all honesty, he was almost bigger bigger than he was previously as Giant Man compared to the people he was like. He was like ridiculously giant.
Yeah.
You know, like compared to how he was, like I guess in the Avengers movies or whatever. Like whatever, like he was huge.
Yeah, proportionally
he was huge.
And then he just like starts just destroying the city. Just
Well,
like,
but didn't the
knocking
daughter
it out.
get super big at one
She did
point?
it too,
and then
yeah.
she was like, "Oh my god, I'm so hungry." It's like, yeah, that happens. That I thought was kind of funny. That I thought was
the
kind of
citrus, right? It's citrus.
And then, of course, it's like they're about to go back home, but something happens,
Of course.
and they're just like, "Well, we'll just figure out another way to get back home." You know, Janet Pym couldn't figure out.
No,
a way
but
to
they
get home
but
for
they
30
don't.
Years,
well,
but-
well, everyone. Well, hold on. So there's a final showdown with Kang, and before Kang gets disrupted by the ants, right?
Yeah.
And it gets like his ass kicked.
yeah, and you would think that if Kang,
But then he like disappears though.
well, okay, so if Kang is the conqueror of worlds, I don't even think an ambush of some big ants would really screw him up that much.
But that's when MODOK came in.
Oh,
And
MODOK came
disrupted-
in and helped.
disrupted
Okay, so you got a
the
little help
force
from
field,
MODOK.
and that's when MODOK dies. But in Kang's ship, right in like his penthouse, Hank, Janet, and Cassie, and Hope all go through the portal
Yes,
to go back home.
Scott doesn't.
Scott's about to go through,
And
Kang gets there first, and then knocks. They start fighting.
Yeah,
And this was actually a cool scene because Kang, his suit was basically destroyed. So the technology that makes Kang so superior to all the others, he couldn't use.
yeah,
And basically he kicks the crap out of Scott because like he is just a better fighter than Scott is.
yeah. That's what it comes down to. It becomes
And Scott
basically
couldn't
becomes
shrink.
just like a street fight.
Because I think Kang destroyed Ant-Man's helmet. I don't
Yeah.
think he was allowed
Oh
to
yeah, no,
shrink.
yeah, the helmet, yeah.
So he couldn't even use his those abilities to shrink down, and it was just basically like a straight up fight. And Scott does eventually get the upper hand to basically knock him into that power source, and it's almost like Kang gets pulled into that. So it's like, does he go into another micro universe within the quantum realm?
Yeah.
Could he still be alive? I know there's all those other Kangs that we'll get to in a second,
Yeah.
but could he still be alive? But this is where, of course, Hope comes in. Oh, Hope comes in to help him fight Kang.
Hope comes back out.
And so Hope comes in to help him fight Kang. And they defeat Kang together. And then the portal closes, and you're like, oh, shoot, they're stuck.
But-
Which, to me, would have been the better ending
If they were stuck there.
if they were stuck in the quantum realm.
Ooh.
I think that should have been the proper ending.
I never thought of that.
And then eventually you figure out a way to get them out of it. Because to me, it was way too easy.
They just said, up.
It was, yep, exactly. Cassie figures out a way to reopen the portal to get them to come back.
Yeah.
I think that they should have been stuck there for the end of this movie.
That's an interesting concept, and I never thought of that.
They can do something with those people there. I don't know. I just felt like that was just the easy way out. They made it the happy ending. I get that we all look for that at the end, but to me, it would have served a better purpose because Scott was willing to sacrifice himself to save Cassie and to save everybody else, and essentially he did. So you almost cheapen it by, at the end, they open the portal from their side to let Hope and Scott back in. Scott's with Hope.
Yeah.
So he has someone, the woman that he
Right.
loves, with
Right.
him.
Right.
You could have left them there,
Left them there.
for a little bit, and
For
then
the-
they could have
they get back
until
at
the
some
next
point.
movie, right? Like something would have been figured out by then.
Well, yeah, a mouse would have came in and stepped on the right button and back in the
He had
right
all,
size.
they had all the
and they would
ants
have brought
there.
them back.
Like there was something that I think they could have done something with that. So we get the nice little ending of all this, and then Scott has this revelation of, did we actually really beat Kang?
Yeah.
And then in the post-credit scene, we see
The counts.
you know these people.
Okay, so I don't.
There was three.
I don't. Yeah.
There was three
I don't
Kangs.
remember who got introduced first in the comic books, but in the comics, there are 4 characters that are known to be different versions of the same person. And it's Kang, who Kang was Kang. And then the other three people sitting in there in the council talking to each other.
Right.
That's Ramatut,
Right, who is definitely there.
Immortus, and the third guy I don't know, but I thought in the comic books, no, it wouldn't be the Living Pharaoh. The Living Pharaoh is somebody else. But okay, so in the comic books, it's definitely Kang, Ramatut, and Immortus. They're all the same person.
Right.
Different timelines, different versions, whatever. In the movie, there's a fourth one, and I can't figure out who that is.
And basically, like, they start talking about the multiverse, and like
Yeah.
you even see it. Like, there's a point where like they look out of their viewport or whatever it is where they are, and it shows like the different like timelines
and
everything.
I think the top guy is Immortus.
Okay.
Immortus is like, Kang is always in the comic books. Kang is always running around road trying to conquer shit. Ramatut is like running around road trying to conquer stuff too. But Immortus considers himself to be like the master of time,
Yeah.
the timekeeper,
Yeah.
like above the scenes, pulling the strings.
But to me, it looked like at one point it almost looks like it's a sports arena.
Well, yeah, and
Like
then
when
but
they
then
go into
they
when they
pull
go
in
to address
everybody. They pull in all the Kangs from all the different timelines, and they're all going bananas. It's actually pretty funny.
It's almost like their calling card has like finally come, and like they get to now unleash themselves upon the multiverse.
Yeah, because they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
And then the final cutscene is what looks like to be an introduction into the second season of Loki. Because you see Owen Wilson as one of the Time Masters, and then you see Loki, and they're watching a version of Kang up on stage.
Which I think must have taken place.
It looks like an
almost
old,
looks like vaudeville,
yeah,
some sort of vaudeville
right.
act.
And then in Owen Wilson's character is like, this is the guy that you're talking about that you're so worried about, and then Loki was like, that's not him, but it's him. So, and I think this is, and obviously I think it's going to lead into the second season of Loki, so I'm sure we'll end up seeing a little bit more. But I liked Jonathan Majors. I think he posed a menacing threat. I don't think the story posed a menacing threat. But I believe there's one scene when I think Scott is captured, and him and Kang are talking, and Kang starts talking about what he's going to do, or like a plan of his.
That could be devastating.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think like that to me is the one part where you start to take Kang a little bit more seriously.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how all the mechanics of what's going on with this Kang scenario play out, because it is a little confusing, because you're not dealing with just one character who's got to.
Right.
You're dealing with
multiple versions.
All these versions of
yeah.
And who's
and I think that's where
what.
Avengers Kang Dynasty comes into play, which is the next Avengers film when eventually that comes out.
One of the things that I feel that Marvel is missing an opportunity on is so one of the main staples of the Marvel movies was always the Stan Lee cameo. And after Stan Lee died, even though they had filmed a couple cameos in advance, they exhausted those, and now you're at a point where, there was a certain point from this movie on, there's no Stan Lee cameos, and I feel like they wasted an opportunity there. Maybe not to do it all the time, but at least to do it once. Like in the coffee shop, I feel that the old guy behind the counter, they should have had Larry Lieber as that guy. Because Stanley's brother, Larry Lieber, is still alive. And he was a writer for Marvel. And even an artist in some cases. But he was the co-creator of a couple of major characters in the Marvel Universe. Not all of them, but he has... I think he was a co-creator for Iron Man. And I think he was a co-creator maybe for Thor as well, or at least Loki.
He's got some
he would have been. I think he would have been. It would have been cool, maybe not to put him in every movie, because I don't think Larry Lieber is a household name. Everybody knows Stan Lee, and that's it. But I think they could have threw him a bone, and that would have been cool to have a Larry Lieber cameo somewhere, like that. I mean, it's Stan Lee's brother,
Yeah.
And it's not just like
Well, it's not because it's his brother. It's because he
was in the
contributed.
industry. He contributed to the genesis of Marvel Comics in the '60s, and I think that would have been, like a really cool type of hidden, thing that they could throw.
I think like doing
somewhere.
little hidden Stan Lee things, either like pictures of him or stuff like that hidden in the movies. I think that would be appropriate to do.
Oh, like when in Spider-Man, what's the one? Everybody comes home. No Way Home.
No Way Home.
Yeah, not the one in England.
That's far
in
from
Europe.
home.
Far from home. Spider-Man No Way Home. When all the different Spider-Man showed up on the roof of the school, I always felt like there should have been some sort of graffiti somewhere up there that was either a Stan Lee caricature or maybe a saying by Stan Lee,
or even just like his signature.
There's
graffiti.
creative ways to do these things,
right? So still
without making them,
without doing a real cameo of him,
right? Without doing a real cameo, or without even drawing too much attention, just kind of subtle, and they're not even doing that. And then to me, that's just a lack of imagination. That's just why is nobody there thinking of this?
Because you're not there.
I'm not there. Someone. You think someone from Marvel is going to be watching this and say, "We need to get this guy in our think tank"? He would. Someone said he wouldn't have let that freaking Baskin Robbins guy in that scene. He would have put the kibosh on that.
That's right.
We need a guy.
You would have stood your ground and be like, no.
Anyhow,
so I think that's pretty much it for the review.
I think that's pretty much it.
I think we got it all in.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. I feel like I'm neutral. I feel like it was good.
Yeah, I'm going to say that
it was just good.
I'm going to say that I
Not
enjoyed.
really good.
I enjoyed this more than 2.
Oh, I enjoyed everything more than 2. I enjoyed Root Canal better than 2.
I enjoyed this more than 2, but definitely some areas that were amiss for me. But I am excited to see Jonathan Majors do more with this character.
He's going to be,
and the fact that he can do
he's going to be embedded.
So many different versions of the character, I think that's a little exciting because I feel like he's got the chops to do it. So I'm very interested in that.
I mean, he's going to be.
And then also,
are we phase 4 or phase 5?
This is phase 4 still. I don't know when phase 4 ends, but but just
he should be around for a while.
But just seeing what both Scott and Hope are going to do next.
Yeah.
I do like their story. I don't know if they're going to do an Ant-Man 4 or not, or if they're just going to be in the next Avengers.
Well, you know what? You always assume that it's going to be 3 and done until the 4th Thor movie came out, and now it's like, and then, you know what?
Well, they're doing a 4th Captain America movie too. So
there's no reason for Marvel to sit there and say, you know what? We don't have to stop at 3. We can do whatever the hell we want, and that's fine.
They're their own studio, so of course they can do that.
But a lot of people just there's like that imposed rule of 3 and done, 3 and out,
right?
And it's like
doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be.
No, just break the rule.
It's just keep doing stuff.
So I think, guys, with that, I know I'm done.
I'm done. I'm gonna finish.
See, I told you. You didn't have to refill.
I slowed down. I could have refilled. I could have refilled, but I slowed down.
So, guys, listen. Enjoy your St. Patrick's Day.
Oh yes.
Be safe.
Have your Guinness, have your Murphys, have your Jameson Irish whiskey, have a nice Irish coffee, have some corned beef and cabbage and soda bread.
Which we will be doing this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, we hope you enjoy this. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We look forward to seeing you guys at the movies with the next review.
Episode 61, and who knows what it's going to be.
Yeah, which will be 61. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Happy St. Patty's Day.